All right.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
We're recording.
Okay.
All right. I'd like to start out by just asking you your full name.
My full name is Ernest John Simonetti, Jr.
And where were you born?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay. Um, what were you doing before the war? World War II, that is.
When the war broke out, I was still a student in high school.
Okay. And how old were you at that time?
I think I must have been 17.
What branch of service did you serve in?
I was in the U.S. not Air Force, the Army, U.S. Army.
U.S. Army. And when did you enter the service? What year?
When did I? 1941, I believe it was.
Were you drafted or
I was
did you
drafted.
enlist? You
Yes,
were.
I was drafted. I was
Okay.
rushing in to enlist.
Mhm.
I was
And
called up.
where was this? Were you in New York?
I was in Brooklyn, New York, when I was called up.
And where did you do basic training?
I did basic. I was called up and sent to Camp Upton on Long Island, New York, and then I went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, for basic training.
Okay. And what weapons did you qualify with during basic training?
I never did qualify for a weapon because my category was limited service because of my eyes, so I was in the medical corps.
Okay. And what did you do in the medical corps?
I was a corpsman, I guess you would call it,
Okay.
working in clinics and so forth. Specifically the dental clinic, because when I was called up, I was headed for dental school. So they tied that in with service in the Army.
Okay. And what area of the war were you operating out of?
I was sent from Massachusetts, sailed across the Atlantic, and we landed in Marseille, France.
Do you remember the boat you sailed on?
I don't think I could recall that right now.
And
I'm sorry, it was one of the ships that sailed the cruise line from California out to Hawaii. It was a large cruise ship that had been stripped down for shipping troops to Europe.
So it was a civilian vessel that they converted? Yeah, into a warship?
Yes.
Did you go with any friends that you remember particularly that were on the boat with you over there?
No, I didn't have any friends from my civilian life that came with me, but when we were in Massachusetts waiting to be put on one of the ships, I was close enough to my home, Brooklyn, New York, to take a few hours AWOL and go down and visit my family before we went to Europe. When I came back, they found that I had been AWOL, they had been looking for me, and I was told that I was going to have to work in the kitchen all the way across the Atlantic because what I had done. P.S. I didn't have to work into the Atlantic.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you remember what the food was like when you were over in the theater?
I never complained about the food. A lot of people did all the time, but I ate whatever was put in front of me, and I guess I was brought up to eat what's important, put in front of you, so I ate it.
Hmm.
And thrived.
And do you remember your commanding officer?
No.
Don't remember. Or did you? Let's see.
Mind you, I was in Marseille, France for almost a full year.
Yeah. And when did you meet your wife, Beryl?
Oh, that was after the war years, and she came over to join her sister. Her sister had been a war bride in New York, and she came over and joined her sister, and subsequently I met her.
Hmm.
This was after the war years, of course.
Okay. And how long were you over there?
I was in Europe for 3 years, I believe.
3 years.
I was in service for 3 years. I was in Europe from the time of the Battle of the Bulge until peace. I guess a year approximately.
Do you remember speaking with any of the men that were coming back off of the front line? And
No, I did not. I was when I was in Marseille, France. I was assigned to duty at a ward for German prisoners of war for a short period of time. I couldn't speak German, so I was really not of much use in that situation.
but you were doing dental work on some of the POWs from Germany.
No, no, they were in hospital for war wounds. Subsequently, I was assigned to a dental clinic in Marseille.
Hmm. And do you remember where you were during VE Day?
Yes, I was in Marseille, France, and it was a tremendous, wild celebration. People were dancing in the streets. It was an incredible time. Much joy, much happiness.
What would you say your most memorable experience was from over in Marseille, France during the war?
My most memorable experience. The whole time that I was in France was memorable to me. I enjoyed the culture. I loved the people. I had studied French at the University, NYU, New York City, and I was able to polish up the little French that I did know. I must confess that at the time I dabbled in the black market, selling cigarettes.
Hmm. You made good money selling good cigarettes from America or French cigarettes?
Oh no, they were American cigarettes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting.
The French cigarettes were no good.
No, so that's why people wanted to have the American ones?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Were they Lucky Strikes?
Yeah, they were Lucky Strike. There were Camels. There were other brands as well. I don't want to do a commercial here.
Oh no, of course. But you met a lot of French people that way?
I met people yeah, through the black market, but I did make friends of a couple. He was ambassador to a small, very tiny community between France and Spain. I forget the name of that little country. It was a Basque state. And I became friendly with them, and I would have go and eat at their apartment frequently, bringing to them many care packages that had been sent to me from America. They were very hospitable.
Did you have a lot of freedom when you were over there, or were you?
Oh yeah, I was free. We were living right in the city of Marseille, and the clinic was down on the main street, the Canebière, which was the name of it. And I would either walk out to our billet, which is on the old port in Marseille, overlooking the harbor, and walk back and forth. And as I wandered through the town, I would stop in different cafes and shops and talk to people. Became friendly with a lot of people in that way.
Hmm. A lot of French and American people?
Mostly French people, because all the Americans were soldiers like myself.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of soldiers in Marseille at the time. They were either moving to the theater of war up north in Germany, or shipping out of Marseille to go back to the United States.
And were the French very friendly with you when you were there?
Oh yeah. They were very hospitable. They were very open, they were very friendly. And of course we had all of the things that they would like to have that you couldn't get during a wartime. So there was an ulterior motive too for their friendliness.
Yeah. Did the service in World War II really have a vast effect on the rest of your life? And if so, what do you think
In
it
the
is?
sense that I never wanted to go back to America again. I enjoyed every moment that I was there. And I probably would have returned or stayed in Europe, but my father died. So because of his death, I was sent back to the United States to be with my mother, who was widow, of course, at that time. And that was after BJ Day.
Hmm. And do you have any lessons for today's generation that you learned there at that time that you'd like to pass on?
Do I have any lessons? Um,
Or anything that I may have missed in the interview that you'd like to sort of bring up and pass on to?
well, I would make the statement carpe diem, seize the day. Live the moment while you're in it. Don't wait and put off the future, because today is the future, the here and the now. I think that would be something that I learned at the time. I enjoyed the life in France, and so I lived it to its fullest. Uh, had no responsibilities except what was demanded of me in the army.
Well, thank you, Jack, for having this interview with us, and we're going to share it with the um, Veterans Association in New Orleans. And I just want to, thank you from everyone at Wentworth for giving us your time and sharing some of your experience with us.
You're most welcome. It was my privilege to be able to contribute what little I did.
Thank you.